The sky above the Varelian capital city shimmered with purple light. Tall towers of glass and metal stood across the skyline. The air was quiet, but full of silent watchers. Today was important. A human visitor had arrived from Earth. The name of the human was Leo. He was not a soldier or a commander. He was just a technician who worked on machines. But he was clever and calm, and he liked to learn about other worlds. That's why he was chosen to visit Varelia as part of the peace exchange program. The Varelians were tall, graceful beings with blue-gray skin and glowing eyes. They had ruled their side of the galaxy for a long time. They believed in order, pride, and tradition. Their leader, Commander Talene, was known for her sharp mind and strong voice. She was respected across many worlds. Talene did not expect much from the humans. She thought they were simple creatures smart in their own way, but not special. Still, she welcomed Leo kindly, as the peace ceremony required. The hall of the ceremony was grand and open. White crystal pillars lined the sides, and floating lanterns lit the space. In the center stood a pedestal, and on it sat the sacred armor, relic of the Varelian past. It was gold and silver, with small glowing symbols across the chest. The armor was ancient. No one had worn it in hundreds of years. It was not used in battle anymore. Now, it was just a symbol of honor and history. Today, Talene said, standing before her people and the humans, we share tradition and trust. In that spirit, I offer a small moment of humor. She turned to Leo with a smirk. Human Leo, as a sign of our peaceful connection, would you do us the great honor of wearing our sacred armor? Her voice had a playful tone. The Varelians chuckled softly. Some smiled behind their hands. It was meant as a joke. Humans were not strong or noble enough, in their view, to wear such armor. Even most Varelians could not awaken its power. It was like giving a toy to a child. Leo paused. He did not understand the full meaning, but he could tell it was something important. He looked at the armor. It didn't seem like a toy. It looked serious. The symbols looked alive. Still, he didn't want to be rude. So, he stepped forward, bowed lightly, and said, I would be honored. The room grew quiet. Leo placed one hand on the chest plate. The armor felt cool and heavy. Then, he lifted it and began to place it over his own clothes. The armor moved, strangely as if it were helping him. The chest piece locked around him with a soft click. The shoulder pads wrapped themselves in place. The helmet rose into the air and lowered gently over his head. And then it happened. The armor lit up. Not just a little glow. It shined. Lines of gold light spread from the chest. Running down the arms and legs, the symbols came alive, floating off the surface and circling Leo in the air. A soft hum filled the hall. It sounded like music, or a voice speaking without words. Gasps filled the room. Varelian stepped back. Talene's smile vanished. Her eyes widened. No, she whispered. Leo stood tall, glowing in sacred light, confused but calm. What's happening? He asked softly. Talene stepped forward. She looked at him as if seeing something she didn't believe was real. That armor has not responded to anyone in over 300 years, she said. Even our royal family could not activate it. I didn't do anything, Leo said. But the armor thought differently. It moved with him like it had known him forever. Symbols floated in the air, circles, stars, and marks in an ancient language. As Leo reached out his hand, one of the symbols came close to his palm and settled there. Glowing brighter. The elders in the hall began whispering. It's true. The light has returned. Could he be connected to the first ones? Is this the prophecy? Talene turned sharply to her chief historian, an old Varelian named Saren. What does this mean? She asked. Saren's voice trembled. Long ago, before the Empire rose, the armor was created by an ancient alliance. The stories say it could only be worn by someone with the spirit of the Guardians, those who were chosen to protect the stars. But that was just legend. Maybe not, Talene said quietly, looking at Leo again. Leo slowly removed the helmet. The glow faded a little, but the armor stayed warm and lit. He looked around the hall. I didn't mean to break anything, he said. You didn't break it. Saren said. You awaken it. Everyone in the hall stared at Leo. Some were afraid, others were curious, but no one laughed now. Talene stepped closer, her voice softer than before. This armor is not just metal. It holds memory, power, and purpose. And you match it. Leo looked down at the glowing armor. But I'm just me. I fix machines. Saren nodded. Sometimes the stars choose those who fix, not those who fight. From that moment, everything changed. What started as a joke became something else entirely. The armor had spoken not with words, but with light and choice, and its choice was Leo. Talene didn't laugh anymore. Instead, she watched him with thoughtful eyes. Something old had awakened, something the Empire had forgotten. And deep in the stars, old machines that had slept for centuries began to stir. The sacred armor still glowed gently as Leo stood in the quiet ceremony hall. The Varelians were no longer laughing. Instead, they watched him with wide eyes. Whispering in hushed tones, Commander Talene kept her eyes on Leo. Her playful smile from earlier was gone. She now looked serious, even a little worried. She stepped forward and spoke calmly. Leo, she said, please come with me. We must understand what just happened. Leo nodded. Okay, he said. He followed her, walking slowly. The armor felt light now, as if it had become part of him. It didn't hurt or press against his body. It moved with him, like it was alive. Talene led him down a long hallway, away from the crowd. They entered a large room filled with glowing screens and floating tools. This was the science hall, where the Varelians studied energy, history, and technology. Waiting inside were a few scientists. One of them, a young Varelian named Naren, looked curious and excited. He bowed to Talene. Commander, is this the human? Talene nodded. Yes. His name is Leo. He activated the armor. Naren stepped forward and carefully looked at the glowing lines on the armor. Amazing. He whispered, even our best minds could never unlock this power. Leo looked around the room. So, is this dangerous? No, Talene said. But it has been possible. She turned to Naren. Run a scan. I want to know what the armor is reacting to. Naren nodded and lifted a small device. He pointed it at Leo. Blue lights passed over the armor and over Leo's body. The machine beeped and buzzed for a few seconds. Then, it showed results in Varelian text. Naren's eyes widened. This is not normal. The armor is connected to his biolight field. Biolight field? Leo asked. It's the energy that lives inside every being, Talene explained. It's like a light your body gives off, not physical, but real. It shows how your spirit connects to the universe. The armor is reading his field as a match, Naren said. A perfect match, like it was made for him. But he's human. Talene said slowly. The armor was built by our ancestors, not his. Naren nodded. Yes. But look at this. He tapped the screen and showed a pattern, a glowing spiral with stars around it. This is the Guardian mark, Naren said. It only appears when the armor finds someone it considers a protector of worlds. Talene stepped back. That hasn't been seen in over 500 years. Leo looked at them, confused. But I'm not a protector. I'm a technician. I fix machines and clean panels. Talene stared at the screen again. You may not know what you are yet, she said softly. A quiet moment passed in the room. Then, the armor pulsed again, gently. More symbols appeared in the air, floating in a circle around Leo. Naren tilted his head. Commander, those are location symbols. The armor is showing us something. Talene leaned in. Coordinates, yes, Naren said. Places across the galaxy. Old places, long forgotten. Leo looked at the symbols. One of them seemed to glow brighter than the others. He slowly reached out and touched it. The room went dark for a second. Then a glowing map filled the air, stars, paths, and 3 glowing planets. One planet blinked in red. That's a distress signal, Naren said, from an old guardian. Station. Talene looked thoughtful. Those stations were lost long ago. They were built during the First Age. What's the First Age? Leo asked. Talene took a deep breath. It was a time before the Empire. A time when different species worked together to protect the galaxy. The Guardians were chosen individuals, not because of their power, but because of their purpose, some believe. They were part Varelian, part something else, but no records remain. It's all legend now. Leo looked down at the armor. Do you think I'm one of them? I don't know, Talene said. But the armor does. She turned to Naren. Prepare a ship. We're going to that location. Leo's eyes widened. You want me to come? You are the only one the armor listens to. Talene said. If this is real, we must follow it. 2 hours later, a sleek ship flew through the skies of Varelia. Inside were Leo, Talene, Naren, and a small crew. The ship was fast and quiet, moving toward the location shown by the armored dot as they flew. Talene handed Leo a small device. This will let you speak to the ship. If the armor responds again, let us know. Leo nodded. Okay, I'll try my best. The ship entered deep space. Stars passed by like rivers of light. After a few hours, they reached the coordinates. Before them floated a large, broken structure, an old space station, shaped like a ring. It's still here, Naren said in awe. Guardian Station Alpha. The ship slowly approached. The station looked dark and quiet, like it had slept for ages. Then, the armor on Leo lit up again. A beam of light shot from his chest, connecting to the station. Lights flickered on across the ring. It's waking up, Talene said. A voice echoed through the ship. It was soft and old, but clear. Guardian identified. Welcome home, Leo's mouth fell open. Did it just call me Guardian? Talene stared at him. Yes, it did. Back on Varelia, the news spread. The sacred armor had chosen a human. The old station had returned, and the word Guardian was heard again after centuries of silence. Some cheered. Others whispered in fear. But one thing was clear: this was not a joke anymore. Something long lost had returned. And Leo, the human technician, had become the key. The ancient station floated in the middle of deep space. Its large ring-shaped body turned slowly. Quiet for centuries until now. Lights glowed across the metal walls. Doors opened by themselves. The systems inside the station came to life. All because of one visitor, Leo, the human technician. Leo stood at the front of the ship, looking through the wide glass window. He wore the sacred armor, still glowing softly. He couldn't believe this was happening. Behind him, Commander Talene watched quietly. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of thoughts. Her empire had forgotten the truth of the Guardians, but now, one stood in front of her, and he was not Varelian. The ship slowly connected to the station. A ramp opened with a hiss. Leo, Talene, and Naren, the young scientist, stepped out together. The air inside the station felt strange. Not cold, not warm, just peaceful. Soft lights lit the floor with every step they took. This place is still alive, Naren whispered. Leo looked around. The walls were covered with old symbols. Some looked familiar, like the ones floating around his armor. Then, the voice from earlier returned. It came from everywhere, but also from inside Leo's helmet. Welcome, Guardian. Memory chamber unlocked. A door ahead opened. Inside was a wide, round room. In the center stood a tall pillar, and above it floated something beautiful, a memory crystal, glowing like a small star. Leo stepped forward. As he came close, the crystal sent out a beam of light. The room filled with images. They weren't just pictures. They were living memories. The light showed a time long ago. Ships flying together, different species working side by side. Varelians, humans, and others together. They're building something, Leo said softly. Talene nodded. That's the Gate Network, she said. It connected the stars long before we had our own ships. They watched as the images showed a group of people in armor. Each wore a different design, but the energy was the same. Guardians. One of them looked like Leo. Leo stared. That can't be me. It's not, Naren said. But he looks human. That's impossible, right? Talene's voice was quiet. No, it's not. The memory crystals showed a great hall, with leaders from many worlds standing together. In the center stood the Guardians. They weren't rulers. They weren't warriors. They were chosen protectors, chosen by something deeper than blood or power. Then, the light dimmed. The images changed. Now, They saw darkness, fire in space, the gate network falling apart, ships fleeing, worlds closing their skies. What happened? Leo asked. The Guardians disappeared. Talene said, and our people, we forgot, or maybe we chose to forget. The last image was the station itself, dark, silent, waiting. Then the light faded. The room was quiet. Talene stepped closer to the memory crystal. Our empire teaches that we rose alone, that Varelians were always the leaders of the galaxy. But this shows a different truth. We weren't alone, Naren said. We were partners. Leo looked down at his armor. The symbols on it slowly faded, then pulsed again. The crystal floated back into the pillar. The same soft voice. Return. Guardian identity confirmed. You may now access the archive. Another door opened behind them. Inside was a large hall full of glowing data blocks. Records, Talene said. The real history. They stepped inside. As they moved through the hall, each block lit up. Some showed maps. Others texts. One showed a list of old Guardian names. Leo's name was not there, but the energy on the list reacted to him, glowing warmly. I think they were waiting, Naren said. Talene nodded. This station waited for someone like Leo. Not someone with power, someone with purpose. Leo was quiet. He didn't feel like a leader or hero, but something inside told him this was right. He was meant to find this. Suddenly, one of the blocks beeped. A new image appeared, a new signal, blinking from far away. Talene leaned in. That's another station. Still active, still sending signals. Leo's armor glowed again. One of the symbols floated out and pointed toward the signal. I think it wants us to go there, Leo said. But why? Naren asked. To find the rest, Talene said. To uncover the truth. They left the archive hall and returned to the ship. As they left the station, it gently shut down again, returning to sleep, but only for now. Leo sat quietly during the flight back. His mind was full of images, guardians, stars, the fall, the silence. Talene joined him in the quiet room. She sat across from him, watching the stars through the window. Your people have only been in space for a short time, she said. But maybe you were part of this galaxy long before us. Leo looked at her. Do you think the Empire will believe all this? Talene shook her head. No, not at first, but they will listen, because the armor chose you, and the truth is stronger than pride. Leo smiled softly. I just wanted to visit another world. I didn't think I'd wake up a sleeping galaxy. Talene gave a small laugh. Sometimes the stars write their own story. Back on Varelia, the science hall received the full memory download. Scholars and elders gathered to see the truth. Some were shocked, some were quiet, some refused to believe. But one thing was certain: the past was no longer hidden in quiet places. Across many planets, old machines began to turn on again. Signals, once silent, started to flash. And on Earth, deep below an old desert, something began to glow. The stars outside the ship sparkled like tiny diamonds in the dark. Leo sat quietly, watching the vast space around him. The sacred armor still hummed softly, as if it had a life of its own. The ship flew fast, heading toward the next signal the ancient station had shown them. Commander Talene sat beside Leo. Her face was calm but thoughtful. The past they had uncovered weighed heavily on her mind for centuries. Her people had believed they were alone, at the top of the galaxy. Now, that belief was crumbling. The signal comes from the planet Vardonis, Talene said softly. It was once part of our empire, but long ago, it fell silent. We thought it lost. Leo nodded. Do you think the armor chose me because I'm human? Because of my spirit? Talene smiled gently. Maybe, or maybe it chose you because you can see beyond what others refuse to believe. The ship passed through a shimmering cloud of cosmic dust. Leo felt a strange excitement inside. He had never been so far from Earth before. Yet, this journey felt like more than just a trip. It felt like a calling. On Vardonis, the once great city lay in ruins. Broken towers reached into the sky like tired fingers. Streets were empty and silent. The wind whispered through the cracks in the walls. Leo, Talene, Naren. and the small crew stepped out onto the planet's surface. The air was thin but breathable. The armor protected Leo, glowing faintly as it reacted to the planet's energy. "We must find the signal source," Talene said. "It could lead us to another part of the Guardian network." The group moved carefully through the ruins. Strange machines and old lights flickered weakly in the shadows. Some of the machines looked like small towers, but none were working fully. Leo's armor pulsed stronger as they approached a large building at the city's center. It looked like a temple, but also like a control station. "This must be it," Naren said. Inside, the air was cold and still. Walls were lined with strange symbols. Glowing faintly under the dust, in the center of the room was a pedestal. Covered with dust and broken wires. Leo stepped forward. The armor's light filled the room. He placed his hand on the pedestal. A soft hum began suddenly. A holographic map appeared above the pedestal. It showed star systems connected by lines of light, part of the ancient gate network. But one star flashed red. "That's the next signal," Leo said. "It's coming from the planet Rivalan." Talene frowned. "Rivalan is far. It is a dangerous place now. But it's part of the network," Leo said. "We have to go." Back on their ship. As they prepared to leave Vardanis, a strange sound came through the comm system. It was faint at first, like whispers carried on the wind. Then it grew louder, a series of rhythmic pulses. Talene looked at the screen. "It's a message from the Varelian Council." Leo frowned. "What do they want?" Talene's expression hardened. "They want us to stop this mission." "But why?" Leo asked. "They fear the truth," Talene said quietly. "The Empire built itself on stories of greatness. If the past chose something different, it could shake their power." Leo clenched his fists. "But the truth matters?" Talene nodded. "Yes, but some fear it." The message ended with a warning. "Return to Varelia immediately or face consequences." Leo looked out at the stars. "We can't stop now." "No," Talene said. "We must be careful, but we must go on." The journey to Rivalan was tense. The crew moved quietly, each thinking about what lay ahead. When they arrived, the planet looked harsh. Red deserts stretched for miles. Jagged mountains rose in the distance. The sky was always cloudy, and storms rolled in often. They landed near an old Guardian outpost. The building was half buried in sand and cracked from years of neglect. Leo stepped out, his armor glowing brighter than ever. The armor's light seemed to push back the darkness. Inside the outpost, they found ancient machines, some still working. The armor's energy synced with the devices, lighting up control panels and activating screens. Naren studied the readings. This outpost was a relay point. It kept the gate network alive. Suddenly, a soft voice came from the armor's helmet speakers. "Warning! Unknown presence detected." Leo tensed. "What is it?" Sensors show an approaching ship. Naren said, eyes wide. "Not Varelian." Talene said, "Unknown." Outside, through the window, a small ship appeared on the horizon. It was sleek but dark, moving fast. "We're not alone," Talene said quietly. The small ship landed nearby. From it came a group of figures. They were not Varelian, not human. Their skin was pale, and their eyes glowed faintly. The leader stepped forward. "I am Male, from the Zyran Order," he said. "You have awakened forces better left sleeping." Talene raised her voice. "We seek the truth. The Guardians were our allies." Mel smiled coldly. "Your empire hides many lies. The Guardians were not what you think." Leo stepped forward, the armor shining bright. "We want to understand, not fight." Mel's eyes narrowed. "The galaxy changes. Some truths are dangerous." Talene looked at Leo, then back at Mel. "We will not stop. The past belongs to all of us." Mel nodded slowly. "Then you walk a dangerous path." As the Zyran group left, the crew felt the weight of the warning. Leo looked at his glowing armor. "Why does this happen to me?" Talene smiled gently. "Because you carry the past and the future." Naren added, "The galaxy remembers. It waits for those who will listen." Leo took a deep breath. "Then we keep going. For all of us." The armor pulsed softly, as if in agreement. The ship lifted off from Rivalan, heading deeper into the unknown. The stars seemed brighter now, full of secrets waiting to be uncovered. And somewhere, Across the vast galaxy, old powers watched and waited. Back on Varelia, the grand capital city was filled with whispers, news of Leo's discovery, and the awakening of the sacred armor had spread quickly. The High Council, made up of the oldest and most powerful Varelians, gathered in the great chamber. The walls were tall and covered with shimmering tapestries that told the story of their empire's rise. Commander Taline stood before the council, her face serious. Beside her was Leo, still wearing the glowing armor. The council members watched them with mixed feelings: curiosity, doubt, and fear. One of the council elders, a stern Varelian named Marek, spoke first. "This story threatens everything we know. The Empire was built on strength and unity. We cannot let ancient legends shake our foundation." Another elder, Saren, the historian who had helped Leo before, nodded. "But the truth is important. We cannot hide from it. If the armor chose a human, and if the Guardians were real, we must accept this." Marek's eyes narrowed. Accepting the past is one thing, changing our beliefs and power is another. Taline raised her voice. "We are not here to fight. We seek to learn, to grow stronger together." The room filled with tension. Some elders whispered in agreement, others shook their heads. The council was divided. Outside the chamber, a quiet rebellion began. Some Varelian scholars, scientists, and young leaders met in secret rooms and hidden halls. They called themselves the Truth Seekers. They believed that the Empire's pride had blinded them to real history. They wanted to support Leo and Taline's mission. One of the leaders of the Truth Seekers was a young scientist named Lyra. She had worked with Naren and was amazed by the memories from the ancient station. "We cannot ignore what we found," Lyra told the group. "The Gate Network, the Guardians, the human connection, they change everything." "But the council won't listen," another whispered. "They fear losing control." For a moment, they both stood quietly, watching the stars. "The network is growing again," Taline said softly. Leo turned to her. "It's not just a network, it's a promise. One that your people made long ago and maybe forgot. But now, we're remembering together." When they returned to Varelia, the planet felt different. No protest in the streets, no arguing in the council. People weren't scared anymore. They were curious. The Truth Seekers had opened new learning halls in the capital. Children and elders sat together, watching ancient records play on screens. They listened to stories about the First Age, the Guardians, and how humans and Varelians once stood side by side. Taline and Leo were welcomed as symbols of change. Some people still had doubts, but now they asked questions instead of turning away. The High Council called a final meeting. This time, all voices were invited, even the Truth Seekers, historians, builders, and young cadets. Taline stood tall before the council. "We cannot go back to silence. We must walk forward with knowledge." Leo stepped beside her, his voice clear. "The armor isn't just old metal. It's a key, a message, and a path forward for every world, not just Varelia." Marek, the older council member who once opposed them, stood slowly. He looked around the room. "I was wrong," he said at last. "We feared change, but now I see truth makes us stronger, not weaker." The room was silent. Then someone clapped, then another. Soon, the chamber filled with applause, not for one person, but for the choice they had all made together. After the meeting, a great event was planned, the joining of stars. It was not a war ceremony. It was a celebration. For the first time in centuries, representatives from different worlds, Varelian colonies, neutral planets, even distant human stations were invited to witness the rebirth of the Guardian Network. In the capital Sky Garden, a new beacon was built. Tall, made of crystal and silver. It stood in the middle of the garden like a lighthouse. At the top was a small platform waiting for the hand of the new Pathfinder. Leo stepped onto it. The armor glowed brighter than ever before. He placed his hand on the core. Light shot into the sky, like shooting stars going in all directions. The beacon pulsed with life, sending a signal across the galaxy. The Guardians return. Let all who seek knowledge come. Let peace begin again. All across the stars, ancient machines flickered on. Data centers lit up. Lost stations responded. Ships from many species started sending messages to the beacon. And far away, in a forgotten sector, another human awoke from cry-sleep in an old Guardian ship. She opened her eyes and smiled. They returned, back in the garden. Leo stepped down. Talene was waiting. "You've done something great today," she said. "We all did," Leo replied. They walked through the garden. Round them, humans and Varelians talked, shared stories, and laughed together. It was just the beginning, but it felt right. "Do you think the whole galaxy can be united again?" Leo asked. Talene smiled. "Maybe not all at once, but with truth, time, and people like you, anything is possible." Later that night, Leo stood alone under the stars. The armor had grown quiet again. It was no longer leading him. It was resting, its duty done for now. He looked up, thinking of Earth, of his old quiet life before all this began. He remembered how strange it felt when Talene gave him the armor as a joke. It wasn't a joke anymore. It was fate, or maybe something greater. He touched the armor's chest plate. It glowed gently, like it was saying thank you. In the days that followed, work began to build the first Star Hall, a place where humans and Varelians would train together, learn from one another, and prepare to guard the galaxy. Just like the Guardians once did, Talene was named High Guardian of Varelia. Leo was offered a new title, Star Pathfinder, the one who reconnected what was lost. But he didn't want power. He asked to become a guide, helping others learn and walk the path, just like he did. And so, a new journey began, not for one man, but for many. Final scene: in a quiet moon orbiting a small world. A group of young explorers stepped into a forgotten ruin. Their lights flickered across stone walls with old symbols. One of them pointed. "Look at this." A human and a Varelian standing together. Another nodded. "Just like the stories." And far above, in the stars, the network glowed alive. Once more, the Guardians had returned, and the galaxy was ready for the next chapter. Lyra shook her head. "Then we must keep searching. Quietly, we must find more proof, more answers. The galaxy is bigger than our stories." Meanwhile, Leo spent time studying the sacred armor. He learned that it was more than metal and light. It was connected to a deep energy that linked mind and spirit. It showed him images and places, but also feelings, hope, courage, and trust. One evening, while he worked in the science hall, Talene joined him. She looked tired but hopeful. "Leo," she said softly, "this journey is bigger than I thought. The Empire's pride runs deep, but the future can be brighter if we open our minds." Leo smiled. "I don't feel like a hero, just someone who wants to help. You already are." Talene said, "The armor chose you for a reason." Suddenly, the armor glowed brighter. Symbols floated up and formed a message in the air. "Next step, the Lost Archives." Talene's eyes widened. "The Lost Archives? That place is hidden for a reason. It holds secrets no one has touched for centuries." Leo nodded. "Then that's where we need to go." As preparations began for the next journey, tension on Varelia grew. The High Council issued a warning. Any more unauthorized exploration would be stopped. The Empire's guard ships patrolled the skies, watching the travelers. But the truth seekers moved quietly. They shared old maps and secret knowledge. They sent messages to distant planets. Slowly, more worlds began to question the Empire's stories. On Earth, Leo's home world, news of the mission reached curious minds. Some people watched the stars and wondered about the connection. Could humans really have been part of an ancient galactic alliance? Leo received a message from his family. His sister wrote, "We believe in you. Be safe." That simple message gave him strength. The ship carrying Leo, Talene, Naren, and a small crew launched again. This time, their destination was a hidden planet called Elisara. The Lost Archives were said to be buried deep beneath its surface, protected by ancient technology. The journey was long and quiet. Everyone was prepared for anything. When they arrived, the planet looked peaceful from above: green forests, blue lakes, soft clouds. But the Lost Archives were far below the surface. They landed near a large mountain, An entrance was hidden behind thick vines and rocks. Leo's armor glowed as they moved closer. It seemed to react to the energy beneath the ground. Inside, the tunnels were dark and narrow. The walls hummed softly with old power. Strange symbols were carved into the stone. Naren scanned ahead. The archives are alive. The systems still work. Suddenly, the ground shook lightly. A door opened slowly, revealing a large chamber filled with glowing data crystals. The group stepped inside carefully. The chamber held knowledge beyond anything Leo had imagined. Data streams floated in the air, showing history, science, and stories from long ago. One crystal caught Leo's eye. He reached out and touched it. Images appeared, maps of stars, records of ancient battles, and notes about the Guardians. Talene moved to another crystal. She found records about Varelia's early days, how the Empire had grown. By forgetting the Guardians' true role, we were told to be proud, she said sadly. But maybe we were told to forget our greatest strength. Suddenly, a new message appeared in the air. It was a warning. Danger approaches. The Zyran Order watches. Leo frowned. The group we met on Rivalan? Yes, Talene said. They do not want the past uncovered. Naren studied the data. They fear losing control if the truth spreads. The group prepared to leave the chamber. But the doors began to close slowly. Leo touched the armor's chest plate. It glowed brightly. Hold the doors open, he said. The armor hummed and sent a beam of light toward the doors. They stopped closing. Together, the group hurried back through the tunnels, escaping just in time. Outside, the forest was calm again. Talene looked at Leo. You saved us, Leo smiled. The armor saves all of us. They knew the path ahead would be difficult, but the truth was worth fighting for. Back on Varelia, the quiet rebellion was growing. More voices joined the call for honesty and unity. The Empire was changing, and Leo, the human who wore the sacred armor, was leading the way. The journey from Alisara was filled with hope and quiet determination. Leo, still wearing the glowing sacred armor, sat beside Commander Talene in the ship's observation room. Outside, stars streaked by as they traveled back toward Varelia. They carried more than just data and memories. They carried a truth that could change everything. As the ship entered the orbit of Varelia, they saw the capital shining bright below. But the city felt different now, heavier with questions and unrest. The High Council was waiting. Inside the Grand Chamber, the council gathered again. This time, many more elders came to listen. The room was filled with tension. Talene stepped forward, her voice steady. We have returned from the lost archives. We bring proof of the Guardians, the true history of our empire and the galaxy. She gestured toward Leo. This human, Leo, has awakened the sacred armor and reconnected us to a past we lost. Murmurs spread among the council. Some elders looked shocked. Others looked angry. Marek, the stern elder, stood. This goes against everything we know. The empire was built on our strength and leadership. Talene shook her head. Our strength comes from truth and unity. We cannot deny our history. Leo spoke quietly, his armor glowing softly. I never wanted to change your beliefs, but the armor chose me. I feel connected to the Guardians and their mission. One elder, a woman named Suri, stepped forward. If this is true, why were the Guardians forgotten? Talene replied. Fear, pride. The empire grew too proud and silenced the past to protect itself. The room was silent. Outside the chamber, the truth seekers were growing stronger. Lyra and Naren worked together, spreading knowledge and gathering support. Across the Empire's many worlds, people began to question old stories. They wanted to learn the real history, to be part of something greater. Meanwhile, Leo and Talene prepared for a new mission. The armor was showing them a new signal, a faint beacon coming from a distant star system. Called Scifi. This signal might hold the key to rebuilding the Guardians' network, Talene said. Leo nodded. Then we must go. The ship launched. Again, faster and stronger. The crew felt the weight of their task, but also the hope of a new beginning. After days of travel, they arrived at Scifi. The planet was covered in vast oceans and green islands. From orbit, The surface looked peaceful, but beneath the waves, ancient technology slept. The crew landed on a small island where the armor pulsed stronger. Leo led the way into a hidden cave. Inside, they found an underwater chamber filled with glowing crystals and old machines. The armor's light sensed with the crystals, waking them up. A soft voice spoke again, calm and wise. Guardian presence confirmed. Activation complete. A holographic figure appeared, an ancient guardian, showing images of the network connecting many worlds. Leo and Talene watched as the network's history unfolded. The Guardians once kept peace and knowledge flowing through the galaxy, but the network had fallen. Stations went dark, connections broke. Now, the figure said, the network can be rebuilt. Excited, the team worked together. They repaired machines and reconnected systems. The armor guided Leo, opening doors and activating controls. Outside, the sea glowed softly under the moonlight. Back on Varelia, the High Council struggled to accept change. Some members resisted the new truths fiercely. Marek spoke to his followers, warning of chaos and loss, but others, inspired by Talene and the truth seekers, called for peace and progress. One day, a message came from the Zyran Order, the mysterious group they had met before. The message was clear and firm. Stop your mission or face consequences. Talene read the words aloud. They want us to give up. Leo looked at her. We won't. Talene nodded. We will protect the truth. The next days were tense. The Empire's guard ships increased patrols. The Zyran Order sent scouts to watch their every move. But Leo, Talene, and their crew pressed on. The network was coming alive again. With each new connection, hope grew. One evening, Leo stood on the deck of the ship, looking out at the stars. The armor glowed warmly. He thought about Earth, Varelia, and the other worlds. They were not so different. All had one shared purpose. Now, the past was no longer forgotten. It was time for a new chapter. The stars were brighter than ever as Leo looked through the ship's wide glass window. The armor he wore hummed softly, like it was alive. It no longer felt strange on his body. It felt like home now. Each part of the suit pulsed with calm light, showing that the ancient systems across the galaxy were waking up slowly, but surely. Commander Talene walked up beside him. We received a signal, she said, from a station near the Varelian border. It activated when you connected the Ceres 7 node. Leo nodded. Another Guardian station? Yes, and it's not alone, for more have activated across different sectors.